Hey everybody, I hope you guys are doing really well. It's been some time since I've been able to upload. I got pretty sick after I uploaded my last video. It was now about 7 months ago now in August, and I've been in touch with some of you, so I just wanted to, thank everyone again that I've been in touch with, and any emails I may have accidentally overlooked. Just for your well wishes and for your prayers during this time. I really, really appreciate it. I am doing a lot better, a lot better. There still is a long road of recovery ahead for me, but I'm improving. I'm getting a lot of divine guidance. I had a eureka moment recently as to what is actually really going on a spiritual level. And I'm tremendously grateful. It is an incredible journey and story that I'd like to share. So I feel guided to share it with you guys. For those who obviously feel guided to listen to this, there's obviously a divine element to this. My twin flame has come in and provided incredible healing and messages. So, so there's a lot I want to share. I'm just going to try and not go off on too many different topics because I've already tried to record this a few times, and it's sort of easy for me to sort of get sidetracked because there is many elements and layers to what has been happening. But I just wanted to provide a very hopefully quick, brief overview so that you have some context to what I'm about to share. And I may need to pause the video here and there because I do, like I said, I'm still recovering. I do have some throat issues, so sometimes I need to sort of clear my throat and take a sip of water, so I may have to periodically pause this. So as far as this healing goes, it's hard to briefly summarize what's going on as far as physically, and I don't want to get too much into the whole medical aspect of it because that's a whole other can of worms that I don't want to open up right now, and I'll do another video on it because there is a lot of silence and controversy, you can say, around what's happening in the medical community right now surrounding this, and again, whole other topic, but in 2005, I went on an expedition to the Peruvian Amazon with some researchers, and it was sort of a dream job, you can say. And I wound up getting extremely, extremely ill one night there, and it's still unclear what exactly I came in contact with. But I was literally so ill, I wasn't even certain I was going to make it through the night, and obviously I survived, but it was absolutely horrible, and it was completely in the middle of nowhere in the Amazon. And so when I came back to the States, my health really never fully recovered from that, and I never was really given a clear picture. I was diagnosed with some things, some parasites and things, but I was never really given a clear picture as to what actually really happened, and I'm still convinced that there is some sort of underlying bacteria or situation as far as that's concerned from the Peruvian Amazon. It's just a bit of a complicated medical issue because I have a series of different things in my body that's going on, and they're all sort of like interrelated, you can say. Because prior to that, I did have a history of chronic illness, like throughout my life. I've really actually never been well, to be honest with you. I've always had very severe chronic fatigue and very bad migraines and things like that. And but things got progressively worse as I was getting older. And whatever I picked up in Peru, and I've been to some very remote areas of the world with the work that I used to do and my studies, and was an incredible time, but I always sort of seemed to pick up something everywhere I went, probably because my immune system was already compromised. But so I was dealing with that for a bit, and then 2007 I wound up getting the flu, and that's really when, excuse my French, the shit really hit the fan, because that really stirred up whatever was latent in my body. And again, it's a series of things I'm discovering, but things got very, 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 very intense, very bad at that point. And I was very ill, and it was a very scary time because doctors were not really able to fully help me. And I mean, they were trying to put me on antidepressants. I'm like, really? Is that going to solve my problems? I don't want to get into the gory details of what was coming out of me, but you guys can imagine what I'm talking about. And it was a tremendously crazy time because it wasn't just the health aspect of it. It seemed to, when you don't have your health, really everything else sort of falls away, right? And I was sort of losing a lot of the things that I loved, and my career and my creative projects and all these things I was working on. And it was an extremely difficult time on a health level, physical, spiritually, financially. I had friends falling away, family members were not supportive. It was one of those things, dark night of the soul, you can say, sort of on steroids. And really at the time, like, the only real connection I had to anything that seemed remotely real or made sense to me was my connection to the divine, which happened to really grow and prosper at that time. And I wasn't seeking it out. You can say the old cliche, it really sought me out. God sought me out. Jesus found me at that time. And I was not seeking him. And whole other story that again, I'm trying not to be too long-winded. I started to actually write a book on this, and had to put it down when I met my twin. I can't remember if I already said that. I apologize if I did, but there were so many spiritual aspects that were happening that I just started to write it all down, and I wanted to put it into a book. And little did I know that all of this was in preparation for meeting my twin and the whole twin flame journey. And you guys understand the whole bit. When I met my twin, so I met him in 2014. I was very ill for about 5 years. Finally started to get better. Found the medical help that I needed after searching high and low. Started to get better. Still wasn't fully diagnosed, or I was misdiagnosed. Realizing now I wasn't actually supposed to understand what was happening at the time, because I don't think I was actually mentally, physically, spiritually ready to grasp what was going on in my body. It's almost like ignorance is bliss type of situation. And what I was prescribed just so happened to kill this bacteria anyway. But I always was sort of left with some sort of lingering bacteria I sensed, because obviously I'm an intuitive, and I do work as well as a medical intuitive. So I just knew, I'm like, there's still something lingering there. But I was so much better that I was just like, whatever, I just want to get on with my life, And then I meet my twin. So you guys can just imagine, whole other gamut of that happened, and all the craziness of all that, and when I met him, I was I obviously felt very comfortable with him right away. We both did, and we both shared that with each other, that and I do apologize to him for sharing any part of his journey, because I do feel it's only his place to share it, but I just want to say he went through pretty much the exact same thing, only his situation was more grave than mine was. And, same thing, it was very traumatizing for him, went through a period of medical trauma, medical PTSD, which really should be in the DSM, by the way, side note. But it's a certain type of trauma that I think people, unless if you experience it, it's very hard to explain what it's like, what it does to you. And it's I'm realizing now this has all happened to prepare me for this healing work that I'm embarking on, and I'll explain more of that in a minute. But we went through the same frigging journey, the same thing, pretty much around the same time. Just absolutely incredible. And so I'm just trying to think of the timeline. So yeah, I think that basically gets us caught up to speed. You know, the whole twin flame thing is obviously a whole other story. But I so okay. So when I met him, I was much better. There were still lingering symptoms. I told him, I was honest, like what was going on, and I noticed, like, I think it was like our second date. I couldn't believe it. I actually was going to cancel because I was pretty ill that day. I didn't feel well, and I didn't want to cancel on him because I didn't want him to think like, oh, I was canceling on him, like I didn't want to see him. But so I just sort of was like, okay, I can just do this, took a bunch of Advil and left the house. And I noticed, like, I felt better than I had, like, ever in my life, because I believe I did mention I had a like history of chronic illness, like, prior to all of this. So I really never have felt like true health, to be honest with you. Ever since I was young, I always knew I had some sort of like infection that was undiagnosed, and I don't know, I had never, it was way more than just the whole bubble love phase idea of just being so happy and so, whatever, feeling so good. It was more than that. Obviously we were feeling that, but there was actual true healing going on physically in my body that I'd never experienced before. I was like, what is going on? Like, who is this person? Like, what the heck, And that was really sort of like my first clue. It was like, who is this guy? He's like a magician, And he said the same thing happened for him. I was healing him and his body and his ailments. So yeah, incredible stuff. And this is not unusual, right? As we know, twins physically also heal each other. So, okay, now I'm sort of getting sidetracked of where I was going with that. But I can't remember what other point I was going to make there. I'm sorry, guys. Like I said, there's many facets to the story, so I'm just trying to, like, keep it brief. But he definitely provided a very powerful element of healing and vice versa. But I still was, my health was, like, sort of still not great, but I just sort of learned to deal with it. And I was just so happy with the progress that I had made, that I was like, okay, I don't need perfection. I'm, used to sort of persevering through this anyway, So, but the headaches, the migraines were getting very, very, very severe and painful. So, that was a problem. But he was able to heal them. It was incredible. So we go through the whole twin flame thing, right? And, I had mentioned that we ran into each other in March. Maybe some of you didn't hear this update, but, out of nowhere, divine encounter on the street last March, at 6:06, at a time that I had been shown, and we were in contact for a few months, and I really honestly felt at the time, as much as I wanted our full reunion to happen, I felt that there was still more healing to do, if you will, or more pieces of the puzzle. It's not like we hadn't been doing our work. I don't want to say healing. It just felt like there were more pieces of the puzzle, honestly, that needed to come in, that needed to sort of fit before full union happened. And, if I'm being honest here, it's like I knew it at the time, but I just wanted union to happen so bad that I was just like, oh, maybe it'll happen now, But I felt deep inside, I'm like, I feel like we came together to spark some sort of grander final stage of healing, if you will. And turns out that's exactly what happened. Although, I have done obviously so much spiritual work and so much of the emotional and, that type of healing, that what I really needed at this point was actual true physical healing in my body. And that's what he sparked. And I my symptoms did start to come back maybe about a month or two before running into him, but he sort of, I honestly feel like he exacerbated it. And in a way, it sounds funny to say, oh, he made my health worse, but it had to get worse. It had to reach a pinnacle point in order for me to actually get an accurate diagnosis, because I've never been able to get an accurate diagnosis until now. So things sort of had to get really bad, and sure enough, they did. So, and I kept being told, like I said, there's a bacteria, undiagnosed bacteria, and I was guided to detox and do all these things. Of course, not listening to my guidance and wanting to just, thinking if I just closed my eyes, it would go away, And the symptoms kept on getting worse, and a lot of my problems are neurological and cognitive. Like I said, I get migraines as well too, but that seemed to be sort of the basis of what my issues are. So I'm just trying to think. So over this summer, it started to sort of flare up again, and there's reasons for that. I know the weather had something to do with it, the heat, the eclipse season. And the last video that I uploaded was in August, right? That crazy Leo 11/11 eclipse. Like, hello, who knew how powerful that would be for myself? And my twin is a Leo. Anytime anything happens in Leo, I'm telling you, like, I catch the brunt of it. I don't know what it is. I like purge for him or something. I don't know. So, what happened was I hold on, guys. Let me just clear my throat. Sorry, hang on. Okay, I'm back. So I uploaded that video, or I tried to upload that video, I should say. And I was at the time I was having trouble, like, with my words, just sort of getting out what I wanted to say. It wasn't so much I wasn't able to channel. It's just like my brain fog was getting so bad. My neurological deficits were really sort of coming in, and I was like, something's going on here. I knew I needed to go back to the doctor. I kept being guided to do that. And so what I did was I did something I'd actually never done before. And so I always call in my twin in every reading, everything spiritual that I do. But I've never actually asked my twin to actually speak through me, because I never really honestly thought to or had to, right? And I don't know, I had the idea. I was like, I'm having trouble speaking. Like, let me just ask him to sort of channel through me. Maybe that will work. And as soon as I did that, it was sort of incredible. Like, the words just sort of started to flow. So I want to say that reading was actually literally my twin speaking. That was him, guys. Like, me, Lynette, could not get my words out. And I'm realizing there were also interfering energies at the time, which there normally is every time I go to hit record, for reasons as you can imagine. But I'm realizing now that there was extra interference because of the message that was going to come through for me. They didn't want me to get. And while that reading was for all of you guys, it still does apply to the collective. What I didn't know at the time is that reading was meant for me, or at least a lot of the major messages for the Divine Feminine were actually meant for me. And that was my twin's way and my guide's way and God's way of warning me and preparing me for what was about to happen. And I'm completely blown away still, because what happened was, at one point in that reading, I'm talking about a tower moment that's, coming or about to come for the Divine Feminine, and to prepare. And I remember this, like, message came through. I felt it sort of like energetically, like this shift, something came through, like that. It felt different, and it's hard to explain, but I was just like, what is this? And I felt this message to say, well, at least for one of you listening, just be prepared. This tower moment could mean a flare-up of a health issue, something like that. I worded it, something like that. At the time, not realizing whatsoever that message was for me. And I have to be honest, like, what I went through just days after that, I wound up in the ER twice that week. What I went through was so ridiculous and so severe, and I was more sick than I had ever been, that it was hard for me to really access my spiritual guidance because my brain was you could say damaged, honestly. Not that you need that portion of your brain to connect, and I'll speak more about that, but the inflammation was so severe. I was so severely ill. I couldn't access my guidance, at least for about, several days. 5 days at least was the worst of it. And I realized that reading, and I remembered that I had channeled him, and then I realized that was for me. That was him telling me I was that person that message was for, and him channeling that to me was like his way of saying, like, I know you're going to be really scared. I know you're going to be going through something, whatever, incredibly difficult, but like, just know everything is going to be okay. I told you this would happen. I warned you this would happen. It's going to be okay. How incredible is that? I'm at a loss for words. I really am. I can't tell you how important that message was, because like I said at the time, that was like the only thing I had to go on, because naturally I'm like, what the heck is going on? How did I wind up here, in the hospital twice in 1 week? And it was pretty bad. And so the day after that reading, still I didn't, at the time, still didn't know that reading was for me. Those messages were for me. And I don't mean to say the whole reading was just for me. I think I made that clear, but major elements of it was, but it does still apply to the collective. And so the next day I'm in meditation at home, and I had Jesus come in a very, very, very powerful way, kind of akin to what happened with, some of you guys will remember me telling the plant story, the plant coming back to life on Christmas Day, like akin to that. It was very, very, very powerful. So I'm like, what the heck is going on? And I saw him healing me, removing these like little, almost like black specks, bacteria, if you will, from my body. And I thought to myself, is that the bacteria that I've been guided, told all these years that I have? And I was kind of confused, and I'm just like, what the heck is going on? I'm like, what do I have? Like, what is really going on in my body, And it's not like every day Jesus comes in and heals me. He doesn't. Like, this was insane. This had never happened before. I mean, it was incredible. So right after that happened, Archangel Michael now came in, and some of you know how Archangel Michael, when he speaks, some of you who channel him, it's like he's just like 1, 2, 3 words. That's it. He's very emphatic, to the point. And I heard just 2 very emphatic words: "You're ready," and naturally I'm like, ready for what? Oh gosh, like what the heck? Like what now is what I'm thinking. Like, gosh, like, what did I get myself into now, And it was crazy. It was just crazy. I couldn't really piece it together at the time. So, what I've come to understand is that, well, I'm sorry. Let me just finish this other part of the story, and then I'll come back to that. I may have to do a part 2, it looks like, but the day after that, so now this is day 3, I had a neighbor who happens to be a deacon. I don't run into her very often. Happened to run into her this day. I mean, literally in like 6 years, I've only had a handful of conversations with her. I just don't happen to see her. And she hands me a Bible, and she's just like, said something like, I feel you need to have this. Like, you need to have this now. Like, it was something like that. Like, she's like sensed something was happening. Like, something was coming. Like, I needed this guidance, this protection, if you will. And that's when I realized that I was like, okay, the last 3 days have been kind of weird. What is happening? What the heck is going on? Day 4, the next day, is when I wind up in the hospital. And it was very, very, very scary. I was having all the signs and symptoms of a seizure or stroke. Very, very, very scary. I had to get a couple MRIs that week. Go back to the emergency room. It was absolutely horrendous. And So, okay, so I'm sorry, I'm just trying to. Okay, so prior to all this, like the months prior to this, I kept seeing the number 1133, 1133. Didn't know what it meant. All right. So hold on to that till a bit later. So as I'm waiting for my ambulance to get to the hospital, because I couldn't walk, I couldn't see, I was losing my vision, my ability to walk. It was horribly, horribly, horribly scary. And the ambulance arrives, and as I'm like waiting for the ambulance, and I'm like naturally like freaking out, trying to remain calm, but I'm freaking out because I really thought I was having a stroke. And I'm like, screaming at my guides, basically like, what the heck is going on? You better have a plan. Like, what is this? Help me. You see what's going on here, which is so funny because it's like, of course they see what's going on. They're 10 steps ahead of us, a million steps ahead of us the whole time, And it turns out the paramedic who arrived was and is a twin flame, is a divine partner. I was sensing 11 from him. I was feeling, even in that this was after some of my symptoms had subsided, but I was sensing the number 11 around him, and there was something about his energy that I was like, immediately knew I was in good hands, that I was in safe hands, And long story short, this person was guided to me to finally diagnose me after, honestly, guys, 30, you could say 35 years of suffering. I'm 39. Well, yeah, 39 now. Had to think about my age for a minute. I'm 39 now, and since I was a kid, I knew since I was a kid, I'm like, something's not right, and they could never find out what it was, and it turns out to be this rather rare neurological infection. You can say, whole other story that I will speak more on in future videos, because that will be opening up a whole other crazy topic. But within minutes, he just knew, and he knew because his dad has this, and he knew. We were talking about my symptoms, and when he suspected what I had, he's like, I'm not a doctor, we're on the way to the hospital, but I think this is what's going on with you. When he said it, guys, oh my God, everything in my body, my soul, and you guys know, you're intuitive, you know when you're hearing the truth about something. I was just like, oh my God, yes, 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 yes. My guides were like, yes, like, this is what's going on. This is what's been ailing you and plaguing you your whole life. You're finally, it's coming to a head now, this tower moment, but you're finally getting answers. And later on found out, him and I kept in touch, and I was in touch with his dad as well, because he has this. Later on found out he's a life path number 11. So sure enough, yeah, I'm pretty sure he is, he's a twin flame, and I didn't want to tell him that, but I'm trying not to get too sidetracked here, but I just want to say this to say he's a divine masculine on the journey who's awakening now, and he actually put it out there into the universe, was awakening and reconnected with God, and told God, like, I want to connect more with spiritual people. I'm ready to awaken. I'm a divine masculine, ready to wake up. And then he's like, then mysteriously you were put in my path, because him and I kept in touch, and I, told him a bit about what I do. I didn't mention twin flames, but like, we both realized early on that we were both put in each other's path to help each other. He had this major bit of information for me. I had a lot of information for him, and this is what he needed, was this, this spiritual push, and I provided that, and, it's just incredible. But I wanted to just share that to say, like, divine masculines they're absolutely waking up in major ways, and these new waves of divine masculine are waking up, and they're setting their intentions out in the universe. And, we all know God listens to our prayers. He heard our prayers. And so, anyway, so I had this preliminary diagnosis. It was completely resonating with me. My 2 stints at the hospital were completely useless. The doctors were not able to do anything, and I don't want to get into that whole aspect, but they were not helpful at all. But it was interesting because I looked down at my hospital bracelet. The first 3 numbers are 144, guys. Like, seriously, 144. So that obviously calmed my nerves a lot. I'm like, all right, so something's happening here. And so he put me in touch with his dad. Like I said, his dad directed me on where to go to get further guidance and healing, because there's not many centers to actually go to in the country, if not the world, that fully understand this disease. And I live in New York City, so luckily there was a place here I could go to. He sends me there, and the only appointment available, there happened to be one cancellation. The only appointment available was with a doctor whose last name is the same name as the doctor that my sister had, who sadly passed away. She lost her battle to leukemia, and she got sick around the same time that I started to get sick in 2007, literally the same week. Her and I had very similar journeys. She also started writing a book at the same time. Whole other story there, and that's obviously a very, emotional topic that I don't want to get into right now, but, her presence is still very much with me. She is a very, very, very integral part of my journey and my healing process, and she is sending all types of healing and messages from the other side, and has been since the beginning of all of this. Well, since she passed, right? And I knew the fact that this doctor that I was led to, having the same name as her doctor, I knew it was her saying, like, you're in good hands, because she loved this particular doctor. Obviously, it's not the same doctor, but she loved this particular doctor. He really cared about her very much. It was very affected by her passing. And I just knew this was a sign. I knew it was from her. I knew I was going to be okay. I knew everything was going to be okay, but bear in mind, guys, I was a freaking hot mess. It was horrible. I could barely walk. I didn't know if I'd be able to see again, losing my vision, like I said, all types of neurological problems. It's hard to really fully explain what was going on. It's hard to put it into words, but let me just say that it was my faith was tested. My faith was tested, and I know that was also by design, But when I met this doctor, I immediately felt right away. I was just like, yes, this is the person that I am supposed to work with. And I was seeing right away the number 33 over his head. Sure enough, he's a life path number 33. I asked him, and I'm like, what's your birthday? He's like, yeah, I'm a life path number 33. He knew what I was getting at. That's obviously a very that's the number of a master healer. And so there's the 1133 that I was seeing, the paramedic who diagnosed me, who sent me to the doctor to help heal me, the 33, right? So this place that I went to was an integrated place. So they do I can't talk, sorry, Western and Eastern medicine, and you're free to speak of spiritual issues there. So thank God, and I think that's obviously a very powerful and important element to healing. And so, places like this, which is what I resonate with, understand that. So, you can speak of God in one sentence, and then in the same sentence you can be like, okay, what's going on with my lab work, and the doctors get it. So it's wonderful in that regard. So I felt comfortable telling him a bit about what was going on and like what happened the weekend before. And I'm like, okay, so I saw this bacteria leaving my body, and Jesus was healing. Archangel Michael came in, and how beautiful is that I can relay all this to my doctor, and felt right away a connection with him, and I told him what Archangel Michael said. I'm like, and I heard these words, "You're ready." And he's like, oh my God. He like dropped his pen. He was just like, what did he say? And he said, I had the same thing happen to me recently. Only he heard the words, "He's almost ready." And he said he wasn't totally clear it was Archangel Michael per se, but it was a divine, some sort of divine figure come through his meditation, and same thing, like announced emphatically, "He's almost ready." And I heard it in the same way, "You're ready," you know. So we were both completely just blown away, and we shared some of our experiences, our spiritual experiences, and turns out this man and his wife are twin flames. And I asked him that. I'm like, just came right out and asked him, I'm like, "Are you and your wife twin flames?" And he said, "Yes, we are." He said, "We don't really resonate with the whole terminology, thing, but yes, that's what we are. We we're aware of that." And but they're still going through their healing process, going through it together. And I, obviously shouldn't be talking about this man's marriage, on on the internet, so I'm not sharing his name. But if you feel really guided to work with this particular person, he now moved to LA, so he's not in New York anymore. But email me and I can share his information, because he is a powerful healer, I feel, and he's on this spiritual path. He's a osteopath, but I don't want to share his name here, because I'm already sharing too much of his personal information. Sorry about that to him. But anyway, I just wanted to say, like, it was just interesting to hear him say that, like, yeah, it's not easy to go through the healing process together. I mean, we're in the same small New York City apartment, So, sorry, my heat's going off in the background, so that's what the noise is. But so it is a lot easier to go through the healing process in separation, as we all know. That is a big reason why we have to continue these periods of separation. He said it's kind of grueling to go with it, to go through it with her. But when he said this thing about the message that he got about, "You're ready," we discussed what we feel that means, and and I feel that it means several different things, and he's sort of helped me kind of flesh this out. And the realization I really came to recently is the shamanic path, the path of a true healer, just like going through a twin flame awakening, comes with a very powerful, dark night of the soul element, and test of will, if you want to call it that, a test of faith. So something I don't think I have shared on this channel, and I will share in a future video, is that I have a shaman ancestry, and that I was told a few years back that have the gift, and that I'm meant to carry out this work as a shaman, if you will. And as you guys probably realize, shamans are it's akin to twin flames. It's not really something you choose. It's something that you are sort of chosen by spirit, and by, it's normally something that's in your ancestry, which it is in my case. So, whole other topic to discuss there. But they basically told me that, because at the time when I was given this download a few years back, I was like, well, what do I do? And they did tell me, you can start to work on people you feel guided to work on. And I have been working on, on some lovely clients the last year and a half or so, and I've had some really wonderful success with them. But I asked them, like, well, when am I fully ready? When will I be fully ready? And they told me that they would let me know when I was fully ready, because I'm like, well, what do I do? It's not there's not, well, I guess technically there are schools and classes for shamans, and I don't mean for this to come out the wrong way, but a true shaman is someone who, it's not a path you necessarily choose. It's something, like I said, that's chosen for you. It's a very, very, very difficult path, and you either just are it or you aren't. It's not something you just sort of sign up for and learn. So this isn't something I actually learned how to do. I just innately knew how to do it. I went into meditation, and I innately knew what to do and was guided on what to do. And what I feel Archangel Michael was saying to me in that very powerful message was telling me, like, you are now ready for this, because what happens prior to a shamanic true awakening, and before they're ready to fully heal, is they tend to undergo a very serious illness. It's usually a serious illness. If it's not a serious illness, it's some other type of, complete calamity that happens in their life, dark night of the soul type of thing. But it's usually an illness. In this case, it was a very severe flare-up of this illness that I have. So there's many different elements to what is happening here, as you can see, but that is a very strong element of like why this has happened. And it's a test of true faith. It's to fully understand the path of the sick and to have compassion. It's one of those things, until you really fully go through it yourself for an extended period of time. You're not just like sick for a week or two. It's like months and months, or years and years in some cases. You undergo a serious illness before you are granted a full awakening, shamanic awakening. And so that's what's going on. And it took me a while to fully process that. And again, like, whole other topic that I could, discuss more on, that I will speak more on. But yeah, it's pretty crazy and sort of sobering. And so I'm understanding, what all of that means. And this is obviously something that I'm, exploring more now. And I'm 6 months into this now, 7 months into this now, and I'm doing much better. So I do feel guided to start, working more in the healing aspects. But I want to share more of what has happened on this particular journey I've been on. There's a whole other element to my twin now coming in that I want to share in part 2, how he has helped me through this. So stay tuned. I'm going to speak more on that in part 2. Okay, take care, guys.